Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. Dan Lust. Back-to-back weeks now, joined by my friend, Taryn Sharma. Taryn, what is up, my man? It's been like 6 days.
I know, too long. Let's not let this much time pass again.
I think that is a good call. Okay, Taryn, let us dispose of the pleasantries. We have a very heavy topic, and when I say a heavy topic, I get this. People will text me, "Are you going to cover this story? Are you going to cover this story?" Sometimes, like it's kind of a slow week. I got a bunch of texts. Will we cover Shannon Sharpe? Taryn, you texted me. I think I can say this. I think it's public. Friend of the show, Paul Heyman, is talking about it on the Pat McAfee show. So this story has legs to it. It's funny. We just maybe 2 weeks ago talked about Pat McAfee getting involved in another defamation scenario when it came to this Ole Miss student, and now his other, I guess, it's not his co-defendant, but another defendant in the Brett Favre cases, Shannon Sharpe, has a defamation case that he is talking about. So we will break down the Shannon Sharpe saga. Maybe it's not a saga yet, but the early onset of it, and I'm sure we're going to hear more of it. We're going to talk about Artemi Panarin with an interesting, I guess we'll call it a settled lawsuit, but he's a superstar hockey player on the Rangers. We don't talk about hockey that often on the podcast. We will do it here. And then, we still have a handful of updates in the NIL world. We're dealing still with the fallout of the Nico Iamaleava situation. Taryn, any other Iamaleavas that have made headlines as of late?
Yeah, one more, and maybe spurring a new approach to how collectives approach kids leaving.
And this would be Madden Iamaleava.
Yes.
Nico and Madden. Okay. With the last name like Iamaleava, I feel like you got to go pretty standard, pretty run-of-the-mill for the first name. But Nico and Madden, I don't know if they're necessarily in the same family of names, but it is what it is. We are here. Okay, reminder, podcast sponsored by Themis Bar Review, top bar prep company in the entire galaxy. We love Themis. Themis loves us. After last appearance, I talked about doing some type of golf event. I got some feedback, so I think this is going to happen. I'm doing a golf event with my students at Pace Law School at a simulator place tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. And if that goes well, maybe we open it up and we do something like that for conduct. But we will see. Okay, that said, Taryn, let us get to the heavy hitting topic. Taryn, I don't want to get you in trouble. Tell us where the lawsuit's filed. Tell us what the lawsuit is generally alleging. I'm going to do the part that friend of the show, John Nucci, didn't think I was going to do, but I'm going to try to read some of these texts for context. Trigger warnings up and down, left and right. This is an allegation about SA. But Taryn, give us as much detail that we need timeline-wise. Stuff, I trust you. Don't say anything bad.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit that was filed by Jane Doe in Nevada State Court just recently. And this is alleging that Shannon Sharpe brutally sexually assaulted this woman several times at the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025 as part of what was termed a rocky consensual relationship. That these individuals were in mediation prior to this. They were attempting to settle this case. And now it's kind of all out there. The key players in this, obviously, you got Shannon Sharpe. You've got this young woman who is we could say an OnlyFans model who is 30 years younger than Shannon Sharpe. And we've got old friend Tony Busby from the Deshaun Watson accuser days. Longtime listeners of this program will remember that Busby represented many of the young women who accused Deshaun Watson of the sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual contact that he ultimately got in trouble for with the NFL. And so this case, it comes on the heels of Front Office Sports reporting that Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharpe podcast, was going to be receiving a new $100 million deal.
I thought you were about to say the other thing that I think we learned from Front Office Sports, but okay, Taryn, very well done. So we're recording this on April 22nd. So for point of context, there might be new news that comes out April 23rd, 24th. We're recording this what we know on April 22nd. So the lawsuit came out a couple days ago. There has been some new developments, and I'll talk about the one that I saw in Front Office Sports. I believe it must have come from Front Office Sports, but okay, so today is Tuesday, right? Tuesday, lawyers for the woman released audio of what appeared to be Sharpe threatening to choke this individual. We'll call her Jane Doe for purpose of our podcast. So Taryn and I listened to the video or the audio. It's about a minute and a half clip. I don't know if people know where we're going to go with this, and I have some strong thoughts in it. But that audio doesn't tell me. It doesn't seem to justify or necessarily prove the allegation, so to speak. Taryn, is that fair? It's just like some rough talk of some sort, right? Like he can't be punished necessarily for talk. We OG listeners of the podcast will remember we talked about the Trevor Bauer situation once upon a time where two consenting adults can agree to have some type of rough interaction. But the Bauer one turned, at least on the law, as far as we were concerned, where if someone is rendered unconscious, they can't consent to certain acts. Now, not as far as we're concerned, that's what happened here. We just have some rough type of discourse between them. Do I think it paints Shannon in the best light? No. But I'm just pointing out, it doesn't necessarily prove the underlying case. But that's, I have more, but go ahead, Taryn. I see you want to get into it.
Well, I think Shannon Sharpe would say that this audio has also been cut up, kind of chopped up so that it makes him intentionally look even worse.
So I had to read this a couple times. So Taryn, you mentioned there's a lawsuit in Nevada. I think we spoke about it briefly. There was some level of mediation. They were trying to go back and forth. They're trying to settle this case. And then this lawsuit ends up being filed on Sunday night. Taryn, did I say this right so far? Follow me?
Yep.
Okay. So this is apparently from the lawyer, Sharpe's lawyer, Lanny Davis. Okay. I'm reading from the Front Office Sports article. Davis, a longtime political operative, said the accuser turned down a settlement offer of up to $10 million in mediation before suddenly filing suit on Sunday night. The former advisor to President George W. Bush and Bill Clinton challenged Busby, who we've talked about, to hand over the tape to a third-party expert of their choice to discover if it was edited or doctored anyway. Okay. But he did say Sharpe and the plaintiff engaged in role-playing, and he admitted his client used the word choking in the heat of the moment, blah, blah. Okay. I'm not really concerned with that last part. It's role-playing. There's nothing really criminal about words. Here's where I, as the lawyer, and Taryn, you as the lawyer, we can have a conversation. I've heard of shakedowns, right? And maybe I don't want to pay anything. I'm being shakedown, blackmail, all this fun stuff. Taryn, Shannon Sharpe's own lawyer is saying that an offer of $10 million was made to this woman. For what? Because we didn't do anything wrong. We're just giving over $10 million like that. Those two statements don't seem to be consistent with one another. If you don't believe that someone did anything wrong, okay, either offer to pay them nothing or offer to pay them something resembling what is relative nuisance. $10 million is not a nuisance settlement. That's a real substantive settlement with an 8-figure settlement. So I get it that he's going to sign this $100 million contract. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to hide. Release the video. Like, okay, you just admitted that you've paid $10 million or offered to pay. It's such a weird thing that it's phrased as a settlement offer of up to $10 million. So I don't know why it would be phrased that way. If anything, you would say I offered to pay her $10 million. But the way that it's being phrased, maybe it's a settlement for $2 million, but somehow it can get up to $10 million if she keeps silence. I have no idea. But the way it was phrased by Shannon Sharpe's own lawyer seems to paint a picture of someone that's thinks that they are guilty enough to pay $10 million on something. So I think you know where I'm getting with it. I find it a very odd admission that's seeming to come out from Sharpe's side. I would think Busby's side would put that out.
Yes.
If Shannon Sharpe has nothing to hide, then why is he offering us $10 million? And usually the context of settlement conversations, those are all deemed confidential and you can't bring them up. Right. So it's the wrong side that seems to be exposing the settlement, and it not in a positive way is my take on it.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And you mentioned confidentiality. I immediately went to inadmissibility. the Federal Rules of Evidence 408, it would preclude that settlement offer as being entered into evidence for any purposes of proving the claims, essentially. So you would often see this from the accuser's side, like, hey, look, we're so right in what we're accusing them of that they're offering to pay us $10 million. And of course, Busby confirmed that this is true because
Why wouldn't he?
yeah, it doesn't make his client look bad. It makes it look like they have something there. So inadmissible in actual court, but in the court of public opinion, even if this is brought up, you're right, typically brought up by the accusing side. So an odd move to start out, but maybe it is just that Sharpe wants to kind of, his entire argument is, look, this person is out for my money, but even an entirely large amount was not enough for them. They want the whole thing. They want half of this new contract. I'm being targeted as a wealthy individual, a wealthy older man. That this person is coming after me, and I think that that's also why you see that the initial salvo is also to paint her as this essentially an adult film star, somebody that maybe society wouldn't align with.
Well, we're gonna get again, maybe against my better judgment, we're gonna get into some of that, the messier part of Shannon muddying the waters, so to speak. I'll tell you what I view this strategy as, and again, you referenced it. Like Busby went against Deshaun Watson, Tony Busby. This is from Shannon Sharpe's 1-minute video that he posted to Instagram. Quote from Shannon Sharpe: Tony Busby targets black men. So he's putting this picture together that Busby is targeting individuals of a certain type, athletes, wealthy athletes, and he wouldn't be saying unless there was some level that this might resonate with the public. And maybe there's some truth to the fact that Tony Busby has been suing, right, like African American individuals that are associated with in the sports context. So I just put.
Can I just say though,
Yeah.
if it were me, I would, and I would never want to be in this situation to begin with, but I also wouldn't ever group myself in with Deshaun Watson.
I don't disagree. There's a lot of odd things that are here. Okay, we'll jump to because I think people are waiting for this. There's this reference. So we see a 1.5-minute audio footage today, which I listened to the audio. Like in terms of role playing in this, I think Sharpe does a good job in the statement addressing that's role playing and whatever. Like, okay, there's nothing really criminal about what happened. So here's the part that I find somewhat odd. Okay, this is from Sharpe. I believe he, meaning Busby, is going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. And I don't really love to give Busby. Listen, Busby kind of, I don't know. Busby makes my skin crawl sometimes, and like that's just my personal view of it. And like, but let's say at best, Busby has a mixed track record. I think that's fair. And again, we're just calling it like we see it at this point in time. So Sharpe then in this video challenged Busby to post the full, quote, 10 minutes or so of the video and accused the lawyer of trying to manipulate the video. Okay, so Sharpe is bringing up this video that hasn't come out yet. And maybe by the time you listen to this podcast, the video will have come out and we'll have a different conversation. But Sharpe's like, there's going to be a video and it's going to be really bad. It's going to be awful. It's going to be doctored, but we should see the whole 10-minute video. Taryn, before I get to the next part, it's pretty insane that Shannon Sharpe is telling Busby to release, basically pleading with him to release a 10-minute sex video with another woman. And I don't mean to tell a joke here. Taryn, you're not allowed to laugh at this. Has there ever been any public footage of Shannon Sharpe engaging in any type of sexual act with another woman that's been posted online? Has that ever happened before?
Interesting that you mentioned that, because I was going to say how weird it was that ad was the same sort of thing. My Michelle.
Well, I'm talking about when he accidentally went live while he was in the middle of doing something.
Yes, that was an ad, though.
That was an ad?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was legit. It was fake?
Yeah, I think it was set up.
Well, okay. Well, neither here nor there. I think it's pretty insane that this is happening. So, Taryn, you can Google that while we're on. We'll keep this in the show. I find it very odd that, and maybe you're going to tell me, Taryn, that this whole thing is an ad because this whole thing is bizarre. Everything Sharpe is saying, pleading with Busby to release a 10-minute sex video. I've never heard of an athlete begging for the full contents of I guess it's a sex video. I have no idea what this is, but he wants the full. Sharpe challenged Busby to post the full 10 minutes or so of the video, trying to manipulate the media. Okay, so Sharpe thinks it's better to have the full unedited 10-minute sex video of him out on the internet. How is that good? How does that make any sense? But also, we just talked about that Sharpe was, from his own lawyer, ready to pay $10 million to make sure this thing didn't see the light of day. So I don't understand, you and I do this a lot. We think about these cases a lot. We think about media strategies. I'm happy to be wrong. What Sharpe is doing doesn't make any sense. You don't offer to pay 10 million and then say, actually just post the video online so everyone can see it. It's very odd, right? And I'll get to this part and then we'll get to the kind of, I guess, more salacious stuff, just kind of the nature of the beast. I view this as Sharpe saying, someone on a PR crisis management team telling Sharpe, like, the video is going to come out eventually. You don't want to drip of bad things coming out. Just say everything that could possibly happen, get it all out of the way. And then if the video comes out later, it's still the video, but you've now addressed all of the bad things that can come of this. I don't agree that this is necessarily a good strategy. I'm just trying to explain why Sharpe would be seemingly inviting Busby to release a 10-minute sex tape of him. It doesn't quite make sense otherwise, unless someone on the PR side is telling Sharpe, just you should put the existence of this video out into the public, and then it'll lessen the blow. I don't necessarily think that's better, but maybe that's an explanation.
Yeah, otherwise I'm not sure what to make of it.
I agree. And Busby, this is Busby. He goes, that video, which will be played to the jury, is extremely problematic for Mr. Sharpe. Busby said he never planned to discuss the video, which is not mentioned in the lawsuit. It is Sharpe who keeps bringing it up. So Busby's almost kind of done like a reverse Uno card, like, hey, buddy, I was never planning to, I don't know if we believe Busby, but like, I was never planning to say it. You're kind of burying yourself right now. And I'm not going to put this out. Okay, so speaking of odd strategies, Taryn, do we have anything else to add before I move on to what you know I'm going to get to?
No, I think that's what everyone's waiting for.
I don't know if anyone's waiting for this, and I don't even know if people listening to this episode, like my father-in-law listens to this podcast, and he tells me he listens to it. I don't think he has any idea what we're about to say, but we're going to do this in the most cleanest way possible. Okay, so it's no earmuffs. We're all adults. So, okay, this is Busby's comment, and then I'm going to read some. I'm going to try to bleep these out as best as I can. So Busby, basically, these are emails that Busby is sending to Front Office Sports. He said that Shannon Sharpe and his lawyer have, quote, doxed this young woman and tried to discredit her by releasing private text messages that have no relation to the claims she has made. So again, I tend to agree with Busby. The text that I'm about to read I don't think have any relation to this claim. But then again, Busby released the 1.5-minute video of Shannon Sharpe role playing. So I don't think either of the things have anything to do with an underlying physical act that is sexual assault. Okay. I'm going to try to get through these. There's a bunch. We'll get through these just so you understand. And again, I don't know. I don't know what the strategy is. Just like make this seem like a salacious interaction. Like you can still have rape in the course of what is otherwise is a role-playing scenario. But this is so in Sharpe's the video that Tony Busby released. It's about 1.5 minutes where Shannon Sharpe references that he's going to knock her out or choke her. Right, like not good at all, like really bad, but they're words, right? They're not the actual act of doing the thing. So then Sharpe goes in response to that video being released. He releases her text messages to him. So this is from her, right? And it's just showing the consensual nature of some of these role playing. We'll say, I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you're blanking me. Okay, people can read between the lines of what that is. I know you missed this blank 25 for blank. So I know I'm not going to read all of these, but you better crave it because you're going to be stuck with me after something happens. I'm not saying the thing that happens. That's my daddy, blank, 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 whatever. whatever. Okay, get the gist of it, Taryn. There's no laughing. These are texts that a lawyer put out, and we're not doing our job on the show if we don't talk about this. So, and I'm not laughing at all.
No,
yeah,
it's weird.
I think this is like, do we need 7 of these to come out? There's a lot more. And obviously I'm not reading the bad part. You guys can look these up on your own, but this is the statement from Shannon Sharpe's lawyer. So, okay, like it went both ways. Like, I don't think anybody looked at Shannon, or I listened to Shannon Sharpe's, like the one that they're saying is doctored and maybe edited. I don't know if Shannon Sharpe said he's going to choke someone or knock someone out. It doesn't sound good. So I guess in the lesser of two evils, you want this to be a role-playing situation where both people are saying things that are bad. I'm not going to get into the what's worse and what's not, but like, I guess, right, this makes it look like you're into things with another woman, which maybe is okay, but like, I don't know. I don't know if this paints Sharpe in any better light. And now, for better or worse, depending on what side you're on, this Shannon Sharpe's kind of become a meme out of all this, right? And we referenced Paul Heyman, friend of the show, goes on McAfee and he talks about Shannon Sharpe, and people are just making complete light of the situation. If that in the grand scheme of things was Shannon's goal, that people would just make light of sexual assault and rape allegations, we're kind of there. Like, I think people are making this the butt of every joke. So this is not a strategy I would ever recommend to somebody, and dare someone to release a sex tape of me. But that's where we are on April 22nd. Sharpe has effectively or unintentionally turned this into a meme, and people are making tremendous light of the situation in a way that I think makes a lot of people and advocates of sexual assault and all this stuff, like, I think probably makes people feel uncomfortable. But that might have been the strategy. I don't quite know what to make of it.
I don't have anything else here.
Okay. We can keep in the silence. There's nothing else to add. We got to cover it. I will mention, just as we move ahead, Sharpe said that the encounter depicted in the video, that's, I guess, going to come out at some point, was part of a consensual relationship that ended last year. And that Sharpe was on TV on First Take on Monday and Tuesday, did not address the lawsuit. But he is scheduled to be off Wednesday through Friday. So we'll see what happens. We're going to record next week. We'll see what comes of it. We've talked about different lawsuits involving media when they remain on air or they stay off air. So we'll see. I'm not sure of the wisdom behind the strategy. I would say it's a proverbial bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for him. But that's where we're at. So people wanted us to cover the lawsuit. That's where we're at as of Tuesday, 22nd. Okay, Taryn, do you feel good? Do you feel ready to move to the next topic?
I don't feel good, but I'm ready to move to the next topic.
I am happy to move to the next topic. And, sometimes we just got to cover hard-hitting stuff. I don't know. I'm not going to make light of it. I mean, you're only hearing some tone in my voice because I just think the strategy was so odd. And if it works out, that, like, and I'm not a political person, but that's sometimes what Trump's strategy is just like, just embrace the insanity of the allegations, and then you can become Teflon because you've owned the statement. I'm not saying that is a wise strategy in most contexts, but we've seen it in 2025 in this political climate. People just eat it. They eat the bad news, and then, like, they live to fight another day. They say the worst part ahead of time, and they spin the narrative like, okay, release the video. I have nothing to hide. So I don't know. I don't recall this happening in sports like this, but Shannon Sharpe does what Shannon does, and we are here, and we will obviously keep tabs on it. Okay. So whatever. I mean, there's no easy transition. We're going to stay within the world of athletes. I guess Shannon Sharpe's a former athlete, but athletes being accused of sexual assault in one way or another. Taryn, are you familiar with Artemi Panarin?
Yeah, of course. New York Rangers, Russian player. They call him the bread man. He's probably been the best player on the team since he joined 4 or 5 years ago.
I think that's right. He's affectionately known as the bread man. My daughter knows one hockey player, and she just knows him as the bread man. So that's, she knows Josh Allen, she knows Jalen Brunson, and the bread man. So that's, if you're not in New York and you're not a hockey fan, like, that's the caliber that Panarin is in New York. So he's just a very high team, very high caliber player. Okay. So this came out, and Taryn, I still have some questions about how this came out, but which have not yet been answered. The story is from it's probably the end of last week. So as the story comes out, Artemi Panarin and Madison Square Garden, the company that owns the Rangers, this is a story from the New York Post, originally from The Athletic, paid financial settlements to a female team employee last August after she alleged Panarin sexually assaulted her in a hotel room in 2023. So, and you'll see why I'm saying this in a minute. The woman, who was not identified in the report, reached agreements with Panarin and MSG Sports, which included non-disclosure and no omission of wrongdoing clauses, and then she left the company. And then I guess there was a recent, during the comments of the recent story, the Post reached out to Madison Square Garden, and they said this matter has been resolved. Okay. And I guess the woman also said this matter has been resolved according to Athletic. Okay, so we have a case that's settled, includes non-disclosure policies. We can talk in a minute about why this is coming up here. We'll talk about the actual allegation. But Taryn, we have a settlement. We have a settlement that includes non-disclosure. Okay? How does this get to the Athletic? How does this get to the New York Times? How does this get to the Post? How does that happen? We can speculate on one, because I haven't found the answer to that question. How does that happen?
What I would well, first of all, Katie Strang at The Athletic, who reported this, is a very top-notch hockey reporter. She has a ton of sources. Typically, the bad stories, I think she had the Blackhawks story. People feel comfortable going to her with these big stories that are particularly negative. Probably because she treats them with great care, and she's well regarded as a reporter. So that's the first thing. I'm not surprised.
She's been on the podcast before, Katie. Yes.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and I'm not surprised that it's her that reported it for that reason. The other thing is that my guess would be that somebody within the organization who's not bound by this confidentiality, but is upset with Madison Square Garden Sports for whatever reason, or somebody even in Panarin's circle who's not a fan of his or had a falling out, that those could be possible sources as well. But I suppose that it doesn't necessarily matter. The story itself is particularly interesting.
Well, I mean, I guess we can go there. I guess you're right. Somebody at some point went to, how do we explain this? Like, for a non-disclosure agreement, you're not really allowed to talk about the fact that a case, you're not even allowed to talk about that there's an agreement. Like, you can't talk about the existence of the agreement. You can't talk about the money. You can't talk about the case. You can't talk about fault. So the statements I just read, both sides said this matter has been resolved. So sometimes, even in the non-disclosure agreement, if questioned by the media whether this thing happened, it'll actually have, you have to respond as follows: this matter has been resolved. So that might have all been contracted for. I just want to point that out. Literally, both sides had the same exact statement: the matter has been resolved. 5 words, both parties said it, which probably tells you it's in the contract. That's not necessarily a coincidence. So the actual act itself is interesting. I don't want to say interesting, but I don't know. It's I don't know if it's newsworthy, but again, I don't want to get too details, and I guess I have to give the trigger warnings, which always make me feel uncomfortable, because if I say trigger warning, I don't even know if it's triggering, but then maybe I trigger people with the trigger warning. But we're here, and we're just gonna keep rolling with the punches. So this is the claim, okay? And again, there's so many details about this, to the extent I don't know how one would get all these allegations unless they saw what was the confidential settlement. Somebody, I think, has breached the settlement agreement, is what I'm getting to. And clearly, I don't think MSG would do it. I don't think Panarin would do it. Somebody got a hold of it. So, be that as worth, might not have been intentional, might have been negligent, might have been reckless. So sometimes in the confidentiality section of those agreements, you have to say, if there's a breach of this agreement in any way, shape, or form, even if it's negligent or reckless, you still owe us the financial penalty, right? Sometimes there's penalties for breaching that clause. If you don't have a financial penalty for that clause, for the breach of that clause, you're not drafting the agreement the right way. Just my personal opinion. But clearly this seems to have come out. And from my vantage point, again, I have no idea, because I have no concept of how this came out, but it seems like someone on the accuser side would have released this. That's, or it's a leak potentially of information Maybe someone hacked an email of a lawyer. On the other side, it's possible it's on either side. I don't want to say this, but clearly someone has leaked this agreement either intentionally or unintentionally. So, I wouldn't be shocked to see this issue litigated. Put it that way. Okay. So in any event,
So
go ahead, John.
I'll just say that clearly the party with the greatest vested interest in keeping this quiet would be the player and the team. So it's somebody who they want to shed negative light upon the team and the player.
That's fair. I mean, and I'm happy that you said that. Is it possible that the email leak occurred on the MSG Panarin side, but it's a disgruntled lawyer that's somehow connected to this? Like, it's possible, but that this thing shouldn't have come out, and the fact that it comes out maybe makes both sides look bad. I mean, you can convince me of that, but we don't need to get into it further. I'm just saying that this issue about who did the leak might end up itself being litigated. But in any event, we do have some details. The alleged assault took place in December of 2023 during a Rangers road trip. Two team sources told the outlet. So the team is now verifying parts of this. And the woman claims that Panarin took her phone and said she would only give it back if he came to her room. And then in the room, this alleged sexual assault occurred. She reported it 3 months after, apparently, it happened. The one thing I do want to say, Taryn, did you catch about like the pain medication piece of this? Did you read that?
Yeah. So it was anti-anxiety medication, which made me think there was Xanax or something like that.
Well, give some light on what we're referencing.
Well, so yeah, the team was conducting a separate investigation. This woman who was part of the traveling party for the Rangers, which means that she's involved in the team in some capacity, allegedly shared her anti-anxiety medication with a player on the team who feared flying. And she was put on paid leave until the team concluded that investigation. And subsequently, she reported the alleged assault that had taken place in December of 2023.
So I guess in the context of that investigation, again, I'm not gonna speculate, but it seems like during the context of that investigation where she might have gotten in trouble for something else, she offered up something unrelated that happened to her involving Panarin, and that's where this whole thing took off. Taryn, is that your understanding from what's publicly available so far?
Yeah, and I don't think we can speculate exactly as to what her motivation was for sharing that. Maybe it took a few months until she was comfortable to be able to speak about it. But yeah, it was at that time and related to the timing of her going on paid leave that she reported it to the team.
Okay, so let's talk about the last piece, and again, we'll see what comes of this, right? Sometimes we want to cover stories as they happen, and then we'll do the update as needed, right? Katie Strang in her reporting, I guess certainly reached out to the NHL, right? So the matter has been resolved. That has been resolved. Okay, so Katie Strang wants to figure out what the NHL, the Rangers are saying the matter's been resolved. Panarin saying that, the woman saying that, okay, but let's figure out what was done. Like, did the NHL know about it, right? As I gathered the question that Katie Strang asked the NHL, because this is the response that was elicited. The NHL told Strang, quote, "The club retained an outside law firm to conduct an independent investigation, which the league was fully apprised of. We consider the matter closed." Okay, so that tells you, again, we're closing the loop on things. Do we think Panarin's going to be punished? No, because the NHL seemed to be aware of this. Am I always dubious of outside law firms hired by the Rangers to conduct an investigation of their own star player? Yes, very dubious of that. But the NHL seemed to be straightforward. If you really want to get to the truth of something, don't have the Rangers pick an outside law firm and conduct an investigation. Have the NHL.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we talked about this extensively
Mm-hmm.
in the context of Dan Snyder. We talked about this in the context of the Blackhawks as well.
Right. Like, I'm just reading the quote. Again, it's not saying anything crazy, but the club retained an outside law firm to conduct an independent investigation. Just the nature of the beast. It's not really independent if the club is paying for it. It's not. I mean, maybe it is in theory, but there's the nature of the beast, right? Like the NHL should conduct it. And we talked about it in the Snyder context once upon a time. The then Redskins, I think they were still the Redskins at that point, but the Commanders now conducted their own investigation. People viewed it, and seemingly the league viewed it as being a sham investigation. The NFL took it over.
Report.
Right. The NFL took it over and then had a different law firm that the NFL then picked to do the investigation. So we just know from our own sports context that hiring your own lawyer is not seen as being totally sufficient. Okay, the NHL was fully, which the league was fully comprised of. I'll tell you one other piece. Can I tell you one other piece, Taryn, that I'm curious of? And you can tell me, again, I could be right or wrong. That statement has me asking a lot of questions. A lot of questions. Doesn't say the matter was resolved. It speaks about the NHL knowing about it. The club retained an outside law firm to conduct an independent investigation, which the league was fully apprised of. We consider the matter closed. Do you have an indication from that statement? We don't really have that much to work on. That the NHL was apprised of in real time or apprised of after the independent investigation was concluded?
It's not clear from that statement.
Not clear from that statement. So, the NHL was told after the fact, after the investigation was already done, which is very much plausible from that reading. Hey, don't worry, this thing happened with Panarin. We did it, the whole law firm. We did this report. Nothing happened. Here's the law firm's report. That is also possible that the league was fully apprised of the investigation, but not in real time, without the ability to conduct such an investigation. So do we think Panarin's going to be suspended? No, I'm not going to bet on it. But I will say, at least from my reading of that statement, the NHL did not have their ability. Well, there's a reading of that statement where the NHL did not have the ability to conduct their own quote unquote independent investigation outside of a law firm retained by the Rangers themselves. And I say that as a Rangers fan. So not wishing ill upon the Rangers or Panarin or anything else. But, as lawyers, we have to be in the world of transparency and, honesty. And I think certainly the Rangers hired lawyer might feel some sense of bias and duty to adhere to the club that retained them. That's my sense of it. Fair? Taryn, I know I've done a good where you have nothing to add. You just nod at me. You're like, Dan, that's it. Move on to the next topic. I have nothing else.
Well, you crushed it. What else can I say?
I don't know. You could say something. You could be like, good job, Dan. You could say,
well,
crushed
look,
it, Dan.
I'll say as not a Rangers fan, and Panarin missed time in 2021. He was accused of assaulting a woman at a bar in Latvia 10 years prior to that. So 2011, we're talking about a 15-year-old allegation at this time. But at that time, the Rangers stood behind him. And he was very forceful in saying that he did not do that. So I think it's a little bit telling that they conducted their investigation, they settled it, and it was confidentially done in this case.
I'm going to say one last thing, and then we'll move on because I want to get to college, and there's probably some more meat on the bone. This comes out at a very odd time. So I like talking about the behind the scenes stuff. Shannon Sharpe's thing comes out at a very inconvenient time for Sharpe, but like he's in the middle of getting a big contract negotiation, $100 million coming his way. If you don't say this, we'll go public with this and he'll throw off your negotiations. I get the timing of that. The timing of the Panarin story is very odd because it's at a time where it's probably most advantageous for Panarin to come out in the sense that the Rangers season's over. They're not dancing in the playoffs. And this is not a new allegation. That didn't just happen. This is something that occurred that I think was settled, I think what was it, Taryn, in the summer of 24. So almost 10 months ago,
August 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. So not 10 months ago, a little bit less than about 8 months ago. So why does it come out now right after the season is over? It gives Panarin and the Rangers so much cover because they don't have to keep him out. They're just not playing games. So they don't have to hold him out. He doesn't have to deal with any, fans jeering him or anything like that. So I don't know. I view that as being somewhat interesting too. It's also possible that Katie Strang held the story for her purposes. I don't know if that's, we don't know one way or the other. I just find the timing to be odd. And now no one's sitting here. I remember, while the Deshaun Watson stuff was going on, it was 2 years. So he didn't play for, that first full year. And I go, why is he not playing? If he's completely innocent, why is he not seeing the field? Same thing with Sharpe. If you're completely innocent, I don't know why you're offering $10 million. That seems to be odd. And I mean innocent as the whole thing is conjured. It's all made up. It doesn't make sense. So we don't really get that decision tree to figure out what's happening with Panarin because The Rangers aren't playing games, so we don't have that information to view for analysis.
Yeah, but at the same time, the Rangers are entering a very important summer. They missed the playoffs. This is, of course, I think the first year that all the original 6 teams missed the playoffs, and the Rangers being amongst that group. And Panarin is one of their high-priced players. He costs more than $11.5 million towards the cap, and his buyout number is pretty low this year. He's got 1 year left on this deal. He's poised to make, again, this $8 million next year, but it counts 11.6 towards the cap. But he can be bought out for, I think, like $600,000,
Yeah.
or maybe $1 million.
You know, the sad part, and I don't want to say. I mean, I think I can say it's sad. I'm always nervous I'm going to say the wrong thing on these, but I haven't been canceled. I've been on the podcast for 5 years, so I think I'm pretty safe at navigating these treacherous waters. This was a settlement of which no party admitted any fault, and there were supposed to be NDAs. It's supposed to be confidentiality. So you settle this, right? And I imagine there's some undisclosed amount of money that was paid. I don't believe this was referenced in Strang's reporting. So, okay, like, and let's say you're the lawyer for the Rangers. Like, okay, let's settle this thing. Let's get it away. Like, we don't think you did anything wrong. I'm assuming this to be the case. I don't actually know this. Let's say we don't think you did anything wrong, but let's pay. It's a nuisance amount. Let's get rid of this. Non-disclosures. Let's button this thing up. Artemi, go on. You got we have cover from the outside law firm. We don't think there's any significance to this lawsuit, and they're not asking. She's not asking for the world. Let's just pay to make it go away. We'll lock this up. Now, imagine being that lawyer and being Panarin. You thought you've dealt with this thing, and somehow it finds its way leaked to the media, and now you've settled. And obviously the statement, like the settlement release papers say, no admission of fault. But just by the nature of the fact that you've settled the case, 99% of the public is going to say, oh, he settled with this woman. He must be guilty. And I think it's said, like, you kind of lose the ability to then fight back in the court of public opinion. So it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I'm not defending Panarin at all. I'm just, from the lawyer side, like, you've thought you've put this thing to bed, you've litigated, and now you can't even sue her side, in theory, if you think that she was the one that made the leak. And, you know, like, that's why you put confidentiality as non-disclosures. You can't even sue because it's we don't know where the leak came from. So I just, you know, I'm a big fan of the legal process, contracts being upheld for better or worse. Both parties agreed to this, it seems, with you know, with effective counsel, it seems, by all intents and purposes. And now, like, through some independent third party, as far as we can tell, this gets out in this leak. So,
Hey,
yeah.
so then I do have a question on that.
Sure.
If say you are MSG or Panarin's attorney, and you think that this leak came from the employee side, can you compel Katie Strang to disclose
No.
who the source is, like, behind closed doors in a chambers hearing or something like that?
So it's a great question. Could you? You could try. I would think Strang would go down on her sword with the big J journalism, saying, I'm never disclosing my sources. You can throw me behind bars. You can do whatever you want to me. I'm not disclosing that. Certainly there are mechanisms in the law, be it non-party subpoenas and this and that, to compel people to testify. But I don't know Katie Strang personally. We've DM'd a couple of times. She's been on the show. I don't think she would disclose that. I think that would just ruin her reputation to any confidential source moving forward. So I do find it odd. We've talked about this type of thing on the show with John Gruden and email leaks. Who did the leaks? Gruden sued everyone that he thought was potentially culpable of it. So yeah, I don't, and I think even if you quote unquote sued the accuser, or I guess the plaintiff in the lawsuit, I don't know what proof you have it came from her. You just know that it came out. So as I started to say it on the podcast, and I think people might have heard me, I'm like, it's plausible that, like, somebody just wasn't keeping their records. Like, you know, maybe like you left your laptop open at Starbucks and you're logged on to Citrix and somebody saw it. Like, anything could happen, right? You could sell a laptop, like, and I like sell your laptop back on, like, Facebook Marketplace, and you have this agreement locally saved, and you're one of the lawyers. Like, this could happen in any way, shape, or form, and who knows where it came from. So you don't want to just sue frivolously with no basis and a fishing expedition that the other side leaked it. You have no idea. So anyway, I don't want to get on my soapbox, but like that's the nut and bolts. It's we talk about these things as they come up. They're kind of ugly. The underlying substance is ugly, but if we're lawyers and you're a lawyer listening to this, like these are some interesting questions we got to get through. Taryn, you good? You're good on this?
Great.
Can you hear the vacuum going off in my office at 7:30? No.
Nope.
Great. Listen, I'm here in the office late, Taryn. I'm recording the podcast late. I get my work done, and then we record the podcast. We do it late. I was about to say, we'll do it live. Do you know what the reference
Bill
is?
O'Reilly, yeah.
Bill O'Reilly. But I
Yeah.
can't. I don't like to curse on the podcast. Can't. But Bill O'Reilly can curse. Okay, Taryn, bring us home with the latest in the NIL. We want to talk about Nico Iamaleava. We want to talk about some of the transfer portal stuff. I'll leave it to you, and then we'll wrap on that topic. I have some stuff at the end, but I'll give you the mic, my friend.
Yeah, well, we've got a little NCAA grab bag here. A few interesting things. The Nico Iamaleava situation was resolved, and it was resolved almost in, weirdly, the first trade within college sports. The quarterback Aguilar from UCLA going to Tennessee through the transfer portal, and the Tennessee quarterback Iamaleava going to UCLA through the transfer portal. Just kind of a weird, quirky thing. We're seeing some weird stuff within the portal. Guys that committed somewhere, then they decommit, then they go somewhere else, then they enter the portal a year later, they end up at the school that they originally committed to. Michi Johnson leaving Ohio State, going to South Carolina, leaving South Carolina, going to Ohio State, leaving Ohio State, going to South Carolina. So there's a lot of weirdness that's going on. We're in a brand new era. And what has been, I think, considered to be a pretty bad couple weeks for the Iamaleavas, in that he was asking, allegedly, for more money from Tennessee, ended up settling for less money from UCLA, from what we know. And his brother, Madden Iamaleava, who is at Arkansas, recently entered the transfer portal. And we got a really interesting statement today from Hunter Yurchek, the athletic director at the University of Arkansas, the Razorbacks athletic director. He said, quote, "I've spoken with the leadership team at Arkansas Edge." This is the collective that is the official collective of Arkansas sports, "and expressed my support in their pursuit to enforce their rights under any agreement violated by our student athletes moving forward. We appreciate Edge's investment in our student athletes and acknowledge the enforcement of these agreements is vital in our new world of college athletics." So I just thought that this was very interesting in that a lot of these agreements have buyout language, which has been ignored because none of the collectives really want to be the one to say, hey, we're the ones that sue the student athletes. Because I think the perception is in a lot of circles, especially in public opinion for a lot of people, that that these student athletes are kids still, and they don't want to be seen as suing 18, 19-year-old kids.
So I want to add, Taryn, that was beautifully said. I want to close. You'll kind of see where I'm going with this. I do find it interesting. So we could talk about buyouts. We could talk about refunds of money paid. As someone that reviews a lot of these contracts, I don't generally like put on social media the flaws I see in these contracts. I help my clients out. I like to put my legal analysis behind a paywall. I see a lot of flaws in these agreements. My side is going to take advantage of the flaws when needed, and like I'm not going to like offer this up to everyone. And maybe I don't know. Maybe I should be like utilitarian and just fucking putting this stuff on the internet for everyone to see, which I've said too much. But that's not my style. So the transfer portal, Taryn, for football, it opened on the 16th of April. It closes on April 25th. So that's just, we need to know that, right? Just for what I'm about to tell you. So, okay, like we have people that are in and out and transferring and untransferring and transferring again and transferring a third time, whatever. I've seen language in contracts, and maybe I'll share a little tidbit on the podcast. I like if the transfer portal window is actually important, okay? let's go here for a second. Taryn, do you remember this Xavier Lucas DB situation we talked about with Wisconsin and Miami?
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone's going crazy. They want to get all these deals in the transfer portal window. Everyone's making it a big deal. We got to adhere to the transfer portal. Once upon a time, and Darren Heitner listens to this podcast, friend of the show. He basically had Xavier Lucas transfer outside, in my recollections, outside of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Basically just like
dropping out of Wisconsin,
right,
and rolling at Miami. So going around the portal.
Right. Is Xavier Lucas playing for Miami this year? Do we have confirmation one way or the other, or we don't know? So like, I just find it odd that the portal exists and we have to really adhere to April 25th. But then again, there's a player that might be playing for Miami that didn't adhere to the portal. So those are things that I just don't know how you sync the two of those things up. And Ross Dellinger reminded me of it today. He said the Badgers have suggested they plan to pursue legal action. Okay.
Xavier Lucas is listed on Miami's website. Yeah.
So I guess the transfer portal is not real. Like, it just doesn't really make sense. And then I see stuff. This is the part I'll share, which I see in some agreements. Like, okay, athlete X, for example, got some amount of money before the transfer portal. Like, they got some amount of money. They were paid X amount of dollars up front, X amount over a certain amount of months. Okay, I'm not saying anything that's so world breaking. But then these collectives miss the thing that you can't really miss. That, like, you should get a refund of the money to the extent that you are breaking the contract early. It's a normal contract concept. And one that's in marketing contracts, a lot of marketing contracts that I see on the other side. Like, if you breach the contract early, you're not done with your services, you have to refund the money, or it's a refund kind of pro rata based on the services you've performed to date. I've reviewed agreements that don't have that concept, and it's all kind of handshake and la la la's and everything's fine and trust me and this and that. Like, I just find the whole space to be kind of an amorphous blob of, like, nothing is being enforced. People are saying, trust me, like, hey, like, can you put in like a rep that you'll pay for this whole contract regardless of whether or not the house settlement's going to settle? And they're like, we can't put a rep in, but we'll pay it. And it's like, just put a rep in that says you're going to pay it. Like, well, no, we can't do that, but we'll pay it. And I don't know. I just find the whole space to be you're right. It's like, I just find the whole space to be a little unsettling, and there'll be space, Taryn, for lawyers like you and I that are looking at these deals very closely and not letting things slide. And sometimes, I'll tell an agent, like, hey, this collective has no idea what they're doing, and this contract's not worth anything. So sure, if the player likes the school and he trusts them, congrats. This contract doesn't say that. So I don't mean to keep bringing up the same points. But Taryn, you and I had a conversation offline, and we'll start to wrap the show here. I don't really have much to add. Taryn, do you think that the NIL space is in a good spot as we are in April of 2025? You, as I don't want you to put your lawyer hat on. I want you to put your college sports fan hat on. Do you like where we're at right now, April 22nd, 2025?
As a fan,
yeah.
No, I think it's terrible. I think that year-to-year free agency is a disaster. And I think most people would agree with that if they're being honest. But then the conversation shifts to, this is like this because the NCAA had many years where they could have taken some sort of leadership and they didn't. And I agree with that. But, I think that we can operate in a way that doesn't make things worse. And that's why I've said, you've said, we've all said on this show many, many times that the only way out of this is to have collective bargaining, to have employment, and to get everyone at the table and making decisions. Because that seems, as far-fetched as it is, more likely than us getting some sort of federal bill that is going to suddenly revive the NCAA.
Karen, I'm with you. I don't think there's much we can do further than that. I'll give you my 2 cents, right? As a lawyer, right? Like, I mean this in the nicest way. Like, the messier stuff is, I almost cursed, but the messier stuff is, the better it is kind of for lawyers. And people say the only one that wins are the lawyers. And like, there is probably some truth to that. But I don't, not, it's like, as a sports fan, I don't really love that. I don't love that this field is so messy that lawyers need to be involved. And then, there's another side of this that, like, I'd love for the NCAA to get their stuff together. And, like, you and I didn't talk about it, but the NCAA, like, I think eliminated 150 rules. They passed some rules that kind of synced up the NCAA rules with the House settlement proposal in terms of the caps and whatnot. So, like, I get it. That's all good. The problem is, like, the lawyers around the space, and I actually do mean this in a good way. I'm trying to mean it in a good way. People can read whatever they want of it. People are trying to enact change faster than the NCAA can move. And while it's in theory designed to push change and push the NCAA to make these changes, just the NCAA as an entity can't put these changes into effect without fear of antitrust exposure. So it's just muddying these waters to an insane level. And I'm not one, like, I root for player empowerment. I root for all this stuff, but, like, I'm also a lawyer at my heart that likes, like, and I think all lawyers are like this, that like bright letter, black and white rules that if you break them, they're enforceable. And what we have now, as 4 years into this NIL period, is just a smorgasbord of gray, blah, like grits and oatmeal, like just mush. And it's like, I
It's
don't have
cool.
sharp,
Yeah.
I don't have sharp edges. It's not clear what people can and can't do. Like, I think we have an understanding of what the marketplace is worth in terms of a player's value, be it a quarterback, an offensive lineman. That's fine with that. You let the market figure that out. But, like, the NCAA eliminated 150 rules. Congrats. And I've made this joke before. I'll make it again. Like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? If the NCAA has 150 rules and none of them are being enforced, like, I don't really give a shit if they're being eliminated. It doesn't mean anything to me. So congrats. We eliminated 150 rules. We weren't enforcing them anyway, but we did it. We've eliminated 150 rules. So I think you're right. The mechanism to get there is some form of a union. And again, you and I are not sitting here as pro-union because we obviously do a lot of stuff on the institutional side. But that's the way that this gets done. The players collectively bargain for what these changes are going to be. And if you and I, as two smart adults, are sitting here that pay very close attention to the space, it's not breaking news, but it's a matter of, when this happens, not if it happens, because someone will get ahead of it. So anyway, I've said my piece. I know I've been on the soapbox a couple of times. Taryn, anything else to add on this?
Yeah, well, you mentioned that these rules are in the gray, and we've seen so many of these players who have theoretically used up their eligibility entering the portal this week, and the reason is because no one knows whether these rules are going to change, and so why shouldn't they? Because they need to leave themselves open to all options as possible, even if Ian Shefflin or Zeke Mayo or Dawson Garcia has played played out their eligibility. If the rules change, which they change every week, they need to be in the portal to give themselves those options. So I know that we were getting a lot of questions on that too, as to why these guys are in the portal if they've already played their 4 years.
Okay, Taryn, I think we can put it there. I think we're just about an hour. We look at the timestamps. Taryn, do you have a what to watch for? I have a what to watch for.
Yeah, NHL playoffs started this week. Alex Ovechkin has done basically everything that you can do on the ice, but he had not had a game-winning overtime goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Not anymore. Last night, the Caps blew a 2-0 lead, 2-goal lead, most dangerous lead in hockey, to the Montreal Canadiens in Game 1. But Ovi getting dirty in front of the net, scored to put the Caps ahead 3-2 and win the game. So that was my what to watch for. I love the Stanley Cup playoffs. I love that the NBA playoffs are also going on right now. This is a great sports time. Baseball is rolling.
I'll say this, and then we'll call it a day. First of all, I get the metrics. I get the metrics on when people stop listening to the podcast. Sometimes they stop listening here, but if you stop listening here, I see the little bar graph go down. You're going to miss the nuggets. Okay, so I'm going to put some nuggets at the end. This segment is sponsored by nobody. It's sponsored by me and the Lust family. We went to the Mets game on Sunday. Okay, so I have two daughters. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I didn't really push sports that hard on the 5-year-old, and she's not really into sports. So it could be a chicken and egg situation. I just didn't do it. She likes playing sports. She doesn't love watching sports. Big soccer. We actually, well, whatever. She likes to play sports. Younger one, I said I'm going to make more of a conscious effort. I'm gonna do this a little bit more. Come sit and watch the game with daddy, whatever. So I have a sports girl, and it could be a chicken and egg situation. It could just be my wife's not a sports person. I'm a sports person, and we got 1-1. It's very possible. But either way, my younger daughter loves sports and loves watching sports with daddy. Okay. So I tell you this, Taryn. We're going to the Mets game, and she doesn't understand baseball. She has no concept of baseball, but she understands the Mets because she's been to games before. So we do a little prep session before the game. And I basically give her we go on YouTube, and we found a compilation of Mr. Met videos. Okay. You familiar with Mr. Met?
Yeah, it's the greatest mascot in sports.
Giant baseball for a head. There's Mrs. Met. She's also got a giant baseball for a head, but she's got a ponytail. Mr. and Mrs. Met. So my daughter, love her to death. She goes to me, Daddy, I want to hug Mr. Met. And I said, well, son, if we see him, he's probably going to be in a different spot, but we can wave hi to him and maybe we'll get a Mr. Met toy. She goes, Daddy, I want to hug Mr. Met. So what are you supposed to tell your daughter? If it's Disney World, we're going to see Cinderella. We're going to see Snow White. We're going to hug them. I promise. That's how Snow White works. But probably not going to see Mr. Met. So we went with my my daughter, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law. Long story, but I went with my in-laws and my daughter. It's because I love my in-laws so much. And we went to go get Dippin' Dots because that's what you do with your 3-year-old. And then I got this magical call. My father-in-law calls me, and he goes, Mr. Met is outside our section. Run. Okay. We sprinted. And Mr. Met, I guess there had been a big line. My father-in-law was waiting in line. Sloaney, my youngest, Sloan. I threw her to my father-in-law. He very, very quickly, he was saving her spot in line. We got a quick picture. The next kid got a picture, and then Mr. Met shut it down. He's like, okay, Mr. Met's got to go. Mr. Met's handler said this. So I couched this as a what to watch for. This is a what to watch for people that have children at some point in time. You have to show them, right? Mr. Met's a thing, right? We did the prep. She got excited. Mr. Met, we now made a memory. I told my father-in-law that this is a top 3 grandparent moment. And I think now I'm a two-time father. I am okay pushing sports a little bit. I bought them baseball cards the other day. I think you got to surround them with things. You can't just hope that they pick it up by osmosis. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're a sports fan, some of you are going to be mothers, fathers, and you want your kid to get into sports, and maybe you have a spouse that's not that into sports. You got to put the effort in. So my, and I love both of my daughters. But that's the what to watch for. It's my little piece of parenting, which comes up every so often. And now she loves Mr. Met. She sleeps with Mr. Met at night. So it's Mr. Met, Snow White, and this cow. So she's got that's the rotation. Mr. Met has made it into the top 3 sleeping with in her bed at night. That's how much this interaction meant to her. Mr. Met. Shout out to Mr. Met if he listens to the podcast.
That is so awesome, man. And look at you, a Giants fan making a Mets fan in the world.
As long as she likes baseball, I don't care. And it's somewhat inconvenient to be a Giants fan in New York. So whatever floats her boat. I love that she's into sports. I love that she's into the Mets, whatever she's into. So
that's great.
That's it, Taryn.
Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
Speaking of Mets, my buddy Jackson Sanders, he passed the bar, and so shout out to him. Passed the New York bar. Very proud of him. A lot of perseverance there. Great guy. And let's go Mets.
Shout out to Jackson Sanders and let's go Mets. And that said, we will see you next time on another episode of the Sports Law Podcast. Conduct Detrimental.